Okay, welcome to the How to Health podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marvis, and today we are so honored to have Ms. Karla Freeze. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Wonderful, and thank you for taking time out of your evening to come and share your story with us. We're kind of doing a series on diabetes, and Karla has some really interesting story to share with us and some great tidbits too to help those who might be challenged with how to start such a diet and see some improvements in their own health. So Karla, can you tell us kind of the start where you're basically maybe where you started with diabetes and then just kind of how you found the diet and what's happened to you since then?
Sure, I'll be happy to. I was relatively healthy, although quite overweight my whole life. But January the 18th, 2008, I believe was the date that I was diagnosed with diabetes. And I had been diagnosed about a year earlier with sleep apnea, but that was the only thing that was ever really wrong with me. I had sleep apnea. And then when I was diagnosed with the diabetes and also high cholesterol, which goes hand in hand now, I know that. I didn't know that at the time. I was just devastated. I was just like, I don't want to be sick. I can't believe that I have diabetes. I mean, that was like a serious thing. And so I immediately went to the dietitian recommended by the doctor that same afternoon, I believe. And then a week later, they sent me to another nutritionist, and then I became part of their diabetes education program, and they sent me on different seminar kind of things, and we had different classes so that I could try to improve my health. As soon as I was diagnosed, like the next day or even maybe that same day, I had picked up a friend and she said they were going to go for ice cream and did I want to go? And I said, no. I said, I'm diabetic. And she said, so? And I said, I'm not supposed to have sugar because that's what the nutritionist and the dietitians had said, no sugar, low carb. And so I went strictly by the book on what they suggested, strictly by what the medical professionals were telling me. I was on 2 metformin a day, plus checking my blood 3 times a day, and also high cholesterol medicine, among some other medicines. But I immediately vowed to not be sick. And so I just did whatever the doctor told me to do. And so I began losing some weight. But I was still on the medicine, and every time I would go back every 3 months for him to check my medicine. He's checked my A1C and he checked all my labs, and every single time he said, everything looks good, keep taking the medicine. And I said, when do I not take the medicine? I don't want to be sick. And he says, well, you're just going to be on this the rest of your life. So I said, that disappoints me. I've got to just figure out something else. And so despite the fact that I lost a whole lot of weight, probably well over 100 pounds over the next few years.
Wow.
I was still on all my medicine, and I was still testing my blood sugar every day, 3 times a day. So I was still following the low carb and the no sugar, and I thought by losing weight that I would lose the diabetes. And despite, like I said, losing over 100 pounds, I did not. And around that same period of time, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So when I assessed my life at that point in time, I determined that my dad's sister had Alzheimer's, my dad's dad had Alzheimer's, my mom's mom had Alzheimer's, and now she had Alzheimer's. So I started doing research. How could I prevent or even take a chance to prevent Alzheimer's? And that's where I started learning about a whole foods plant-based diet at the time. I didn't know about the whole foods, but Dr. Barnard and Dr. Furman were some of my early articles that I read and some early books. And I started watching documentaries and reading medical studies and a variety of books. And after about 6 months, I decided.
Go ahead.
So I found Dr. Barnard and I think Dr. Furman were my first articles that I read about a plant-based diet and how to prevent disease with it, that it was the healthiest as far as they were concerned. So I started doing more research, started reading some medical studies and watching documentaries and reading some more books. for about 6 months. And on Christmas Day of 2012, my present to myself was to change my diet. And I had watched Forks Over Knives. And the next day I went and got rid of everything in my house and got all new groceries and only plant-based food. And that'll be nearly 5 years. And so probably about 3 months after that, I stopped taking my diabetes medicine because my blood sugar was consistently good and I was feeling so much better. And I went to the doctor for a checkup and they were just amazed at the difference in my health.
So you went how many years? 4 years or so?
I did from 2008 through the beginning of 2013.
Oh, wow. So 5 years following the prescribed diet by the medical establishment, and then you discover a whole food plant-based diet in hopes of preventing Alzheimer's. You come off your medication in 3 months.
Yes.
And so did you lose any additional weight?
Well, I had started gaining a little bit back. I had gained about 30 pounds back. So when I started the plant-based diet, I lost another 15 like right away. And then I started eating a lot of nuts and a lot of oily things because they were vegan. That was my theory. They were vegan, but they weren't healthy. Obviously, we know that now. But it was all a learning process. And that's why we do these podcasts, to help educate people. That's why I walk the walk every day and I talk the talk every day, because I just want people to know about it. So by the time I found Whole Foods Plant-Based Diet, which was in December of 2013, then I came off the oil and the nuts.
Okay.
And I started losing again.
So as far as your total weight loss, what was your total weight loss?
I've lost 236 pounds.
Wow, that's incredible. So, when you see someone, they say like, I just can't do it. What do you tell them? What are your excuse busters?
Well, I say then you don't want it bad enough, because it's really not that hard, because it's simply a choice. In my mind, it's every single bite. It's either feeding disease or it's feeding health. And people tend to make it harder than it is. And they say, well, I really miss meat, or I really miss oil, or I really miss this, or I really miss that. And I think I try to explain to them, change your perspective. What do you want? And explain to them that, in my opinion, there is nothing, absolutely nothing more important than your health, because without it, you have nothing. So I just say, change your perspective. Think about self-care. Think about taking care of yourself. You are worthy of optimal health. You just have to make the choice to do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So is there any family members in your home or other people that you've really inspired or struggled with? I mean, what is your experience there?
I've been very fortunate to be able to inspire several people who have changed their lives. I have also been sad to say I have not been able to help some people, and I've had 2 very close friends pass away this year, within the last 6 months actually, that all the disease that they had could have been totally prevented.
Wow. And so when you see that, what do you think is holding them back? I mean, they've seen your dramatic recovery, weight loss. They know they can come to you and ask questions.
Right.
What do you think about it? What are the conversations and excuses that you're hearing? Because for me as a physician, that's the most frustrating part, is like, I have the answer, but you're not listening. So
Exactly.
what have you found tends to be the biggest excuse?
I don't know. I'm just exactly like you. I'm just so frustrated sometimes, because we know we have it. My boss tells me, I just admire you so much. I have never known anybody with your dedication and your determination. He says, I could never do it. I said, of course you could. It's simply a choice. You just have to make the choice to do it. And he says, then I don't want it bad enough. And I said, well, then perhaps not.
Right. Wow.
So, and he's been one of my biggest supporters, which is so ironic, because I did a free presentation earlier this year, and he says, you are selling health. You are selling the truth. He says, don't be scared to get up there and tell that. I said, why don't you listen to me when I say that?
And what does he say when you ask
He
him?
said, I don't know. I just don't think I could do it. I just can't do it.
Wow. It,
I know.
it just blows my mind. People would rather suffer than just change some eating habits. And the food is amazing.
It
I
is.
mean, it really speaks to the addiction and the power of food when it comes to our mind and our social habits
That's
and
it. A
so
lot of
many
it is
things.
social. You're exactly right. We have,
Mm,
unfortunately, eating out or eating together has become our social uh, activity. And so that's another thing too. When I can get people started thinking about it, and somebody will say, "Well, we go out to eat a lot." Well, change your focus. Find other things that you enjoy a lot, and focus on that more. Learn, to go do yoga or learn to go to the movies. I don't know, other things that take your mind off of food a lot, and have food be fuel rather than your social life.
right, exactly. I think when you reframe how you look at food
Hmm.
and its relationship to yourself, your body, and your life, that is really when you start seeing changes.
It is. It is.
Absolutely. So, I mean, wow, it's incredible. So, we're tending to keep these short because there's a series of them. So, what is the one last bit of advice that you would give to someone who's maybe teetering, thinking, well, maybe I should do it, maybe I can't do it? Do you have some advice that you find that really helps them, a lot of people, or maybe um, an excuse that seems to be fallen by the wayside? What do you tell people?
Oh, it's just, people just don't know. They don't get it. And even seeing my progress and seeing my success, they still don't think they can do it. Obviously, they just think it might be too hard. So my thought, I guess, would be to say, at least try it. Just try it for 30 days is my suggestion, because our taste buds change. And in about that amount of time, that everything that they eat is going to taste amazing. And people say, "Oh no, it tastes horrible," and then they can't do it after a week. I said, "Look how sick you are. Look how much medicine you're on." I said, "Would it not be worth eating cardboard for 30 days in order to have your health back?" I mean, truthfully.
Right.
You're like, well, yeah, you have a good point.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, absolutely incredible. I mean, you had such a dramatic change, but it was so simple to describe. Oh, I did this, that didn't work. I did this and this worked. So, but you actually have provided some online resources. What is your website?
It's purelyplants.co. Where I have some
I'm
resources. I have
sorry. Could you could you repeat that? I'm sorry, it kind of cut out a little bit.
purelyplants.co.
There you go. And what's on Purely Plants
I
CO?
have my story, and I have some resources for people to educate themselves, a list of documentaries, a list of websites. I have some services that I provide, some consulting services to help people transition. That's a very short consultation, just kind of to get people started on their path. And I have a list of foods that I eat. That's my biggest asked
Mm,
question, is what do I eat? And I eat very, very simply. I may make a recipe occasionally, or a big batch of something on the weekend, but mostly I eat very simply, vegetables and rice, or potatoes and a salad, or something pretty simple.
I think that is invaluable information because that you're exactly right. People go, well, how do I do this? What are you eating? Is it just lettuce and carrots? So,
Right.
they do think you're eating grass and nothing else. So I think those are fantastic.
Yes.
But thank you so much for spending your evening with us, and I can't wait to share your story with everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marbus. I'm so happy to be able to help.
Thank you. One second.